2024, a month that will change real estate forever. Don't go anywhere because we're going to break it down and what's going on in the Phoenix market right now. The biggest change out of the NAR settlement is simply that there is more transparency and a lot more conversations about who makes what money for doing what services, both from buyer and seller. That's kind of it in a nutshell, but let's peel back that onion for you and let's break it down. And it's important to know what it means for the seller to understand how it works for the buyer. Okay, conversations with sellers are completely different. Number one, they are no longer talking about a one bucket that's distributed out a bunch of different ways. It's the first of three buckets. First bucket, to Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, what are you going to pay me as your listing agent? No more, no less. These are the fees. These are the services. Easy. Number two, in the event that a non-represented buyer comes to me, how would you like me to handle it? The reason this conversation never happened before is because that bucket used to be a lot bigger. And in the event that an unrepresented buyer contacted the listing agent, that bucket got to go all the way to a listing agent. So there are a lot of agents that were mismarketing homes, especially during that craziness we saw in 2021. They were keeping that full 5, 6, even 7% for themselves, and they never went out on the open market. Watch out for those 72 different people. Needless to say, if you now want me to represent an unrepresented buyer, then it will cost the seller a little bit more money than what they committed to me already, and they're going to receive a lower level of fiduciary. So the seller asks me, seriously, in a listing appointment last week, says, so I'm going to receive lower level services and I have to pay you more money? I'm like, that is correct. So we're going to see more sellers have these conversations and decide for themselves that they do not want unrepresented buyers. As an unrepresented buyer, you'll have two choices in this scenario where the seller is not entertaining any offers from unrepresented buyers. And that is either A, I can refer you to another realtor, or B, you can find another realtor on your own. Now, there will be some flat fee service agents out there that are willing to just open a door for $50, maybe $100, and you can use them for that service only, and then there'll be more of an a la carte. Can you write me the offer? Can you attend the inspection with me, etc.? So again, I think we're going to see a lot of different types of realtors out there, and I think that we are going to be in different categories as opposed to just one as buyer agent that we were before the DOJ settlement. Number three, the third bucket is the conversation with the seller. How much are you going to be paying the buyer broker? That can be anywhere from 0 to 4 or 5%. It can be whatever. The seller can dictate whatever they want, but here's the thing. The DOJ does not want that preset before an offer is submitted. So the answer when I get calls on my new listing, when an agent calls me and says, is the seller offering a buyer broker compensation? The answer will be yes. Please submit that on the seller compensation addendum with your offer. Easy peasy. So for the buyer, there's a lot of changes, and a lot of this comes with education, not only for the consumer, but a lot of realtors are not quite understanding what it is and how they will be compensated, and unfortunately are focusing way too much on them. This is supposed to be about the consumer. That's what the DOJ is really trying to get at. I do think that there's going to be a lot of unintentional consequences that will kind of be shaken out over the next 6 to 12 months, but this is just the direction we have to go because of the NAR settlement. So let's start with any buyer that's in the market today and actually wants to look at a home either in person or virtual showing has to enter into some sort of compensation agreement with a realtor. Now, some realtors might be doing it for free, and therefore you can enter in a contract for free. I don't know why they would, but There's also flat fee agents that might charge, $50 to open a door, $100 to do a virtual showing. Who knows what's going to come out of this? It really is going to separate professional, experienced, high-level skill set agents from some of the newer, less experienced, maybe part-time agents that are still trying to figure out how to make some money. So again, there's going to be a little bit of a fallout over the next 6 to 12 months, but here is what those contracts look like today. Like I said, one would be a specific showing for a property. That might be if you click on Redfin or Zillow, Realtor.com, and you live in the area and you want to just go look at one home. The second one would be maybe a more experienced agent, but let's say you want to try out a couple of different agents. And so that might be a non-exclusive agreement where you can work with a couple of different realtors, but whoever is the one that takes you into the home that ultimately writes the contract is the one that will receive compensation. There are those agents that might be offering that type of service. But I think you're going to find people that are realtors that are more desperate and need that business that would go down that avenue. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, my team, we will be using what they call a buyer broker exclusive employment agreement. That's the BBEEA. Our industry loves acronyms. And in this document, it will very clearly determine what services you're going to be receiving, the relationship from both sides, the commitment to each other, the exclusivity, and the compensation that the buyer agent will receive at closing. So there are some agents that might charge a retainer fee. There's going to be a lot of different things people are throwing out there. Just like always, we are independent contractors. Although we hang our licenses at different brokerages, the NAR lawsuit, the settlement, is supposed to bring all of us to the same rules and laws. But I have to tell you, there are different brokers that have difference of opinion on what some of these requirements are from the DOJ. So you might find some realtors that are kind of trying to get in under the fence a little bit. So be sure to interview realtors that you know are working on your behalf. Our fiduciary responsibility is that we put your interest above ours. We will always ask for a seller to pay for our compensation when an offer is being submitted, as we mentioned earlier on that seller compensation agreement. In the event that the seller does not pay all of our compensation as agreed to, we, meaning the buyer and the buyer agent, we can renegotiate our compensation down from the BBEEA. It can't go up. And I want people to know that because there are agents out there that are thinking that they're going to enter in the BBEEA at a low rate to draw in more buyers, and then they're going to increase their commission in the event that the seller offers more. And that's a big no-no. And the DOJ will be cracking down on that. But there are some brokers that are allowing that. And so it's really important that you interview the realtors that you are considering working, like what are going to be their standard of care, their practice. Find out from what their expertise are, how long they've been in the business, what have they done for the last 5 deals or 10 deals. Ask how many deals they've done in the last month or in the last year. That comes into play. And specifically, as it relates to this particular new world that we're in, ask them what training and what preparation do they have in place to help their client, the buyer, through this craziness. That is a good question, because I'll be honest with you, there is training out there for every realtor. Here's the thing though, it's never mandatory. And so only realtors that really take this seriously are taking the initiative to incorporate this into their standard practices and how they're going to adhere. And again, in some of those gray areas, myself and my brokerage are erring on the side of the DOJ. So the last message to the buyer is this: interview at least 2 or 3 realtors. Make sure that they have the expertise and the background that you are looking for. Make sure it's not just about the money written on that contract, because again, it can go down, it just can't go up. So my favorite word is trickery. Be careful of the trickery out there, guys. There are a lot of realtors that are going to be falling out of the industry over the next 6 to 10 months. And I think that the volume that anyone you speak with, and also when you talk to like another YouTuber, and they're the ones that are generating the lead, how much are they involved in the actual contract, the negotiations? Most of them just pass those leads off to team members. And these are brand new agents that you called on someone that had a lot more experience. You're going to definitely want to interview people until you find the one that matches for you.
The rates going up or down, that's not my bailiwick, but what I can explain is if rates go down just another percentage point, that's what I'm hoping for by year end, prices are going to go through the roof. And the reason for that
would be around 6%, get to that level.
Because everyone will come out and buy. There are probably 10 buyers on the sidelines waiting for interest rates to come down that are actually active in the market. So everybody's going to charge the market. And so if you wait for interest rates to come down by another point, I don't think you'll gain. I think you'll wind up paying more, because I wouldn't be surprised if real estate went up by another 8 or 10% if interest rates come down another full point. I know it sounds crazy, but there's a magic number that makes people get all juicy about.
Yeah.
And it just has to slide down there for everybody to say, let's get out there and take advantage of it.
People.
Interest rates affect our market, the real estate market, more than the pricing does. And people don't realize that. They tend to hang on that purchase price number. But when you go to buy a car, it's all about the monthly payment. Well, interest rates have moved that focus, or it should move that focus, as opposed to the price, as you should be looking at the interest rate. So, example, a $400,000 loan at 7.25%, which we have seen traditionally over the last year or two, the payments, just the principal and interest, are going to be coming in about $2,700 a month. That can be rather steep for a lot of families. And with the interest rates that just went down this last week, if we can get the seller to buy down the rate another point at 5.25%, we could get that monthly payment down to $2,200. Now, that's much closer if you're currently renting a 3-bedroom apartment or a single family home. Chances are great you're paying more than the $2,200 a month a mortgage payment would be. Now, in the event you're buying new construction, where builders are offering today 4% loans for a 30-year fixed, this can bring your payments below $2,000 a month. Now, here's the thing. Interest rates went down last week. When the feds eventually reduce their rate, it's going to go down even more. So my anticipation is that there will be more buyer activity as we approach the end of the year. There's also going to be some fantastic builder incentives. And I do believe come next year, it's going to be somewhat of a busy market. Let's just call it that. I'm not going to call it crazy like Barbara Corcoran said, but it's going to be very busy. And here's another thing I would love to point out to you. When we look at years past, and you look at the buying season in the greater Phoenix area, which is very different than the rest of the nation. We're literally on this island, a summer island. So although summertime is the peak time literally almost everywhere else in the country, it is the lowest season for buyer activity in the greater Phoenix area. Our peak market is January, is when the new listings come on. We know there's going to be more buyers in the market. And by February and March, we start to see that volume of business increase. We also see the prices go up. And when you look at this chart right here, it shows you traditionally every single year, before COVID, during COVID, and even now, you will pay more money for a home, any kind of a property, in the January to June timeframe. It starts to go down in the July timeframe. It has a little bit of a kick in the fall time, and then the best time to buy is the last 6 weeks out of the year. So that's the holiday season. So I find it very interesting that buyers always say, well, I'm going to wait until January, February. I'm like, why would you do that? Because that's when you're going to pay the most cost per square foot basis consistently every single year. So definitely take that into consideration. It seems as though the Phoenix real estate market is always in the news for good or for bad. It never ends about people trying to predict market bottoms, market crashes. But let's break it down on a per city basis for you so you can see how diverse our market has become. It's not just one real estate market. And it's important that you first learn that anybody talking about Phoenix from a national perspective, if they do not have active data in the market from our MLS system, and I'll be honest with you, very few people have that information to make some of the projections, they're totally off base. Even Redfin and Zillow, when they have their market predictions, they talk about Phoenix overall. We have a luxury market that will compete with some of the most iconic luxury markets in the country. So when you sell a $20 million home and a $200,000 home in the greater Phoenix area, it doesn't mean that the median between those two is the median price. But that's exactly what's happening, both from a good and a bad perspective. Like, how many of the $20 million do we really sell? So again, that's why it's really important that we break these markets apart for you so you have a better understanding, and also understanding how prices are different in different parts of the Phoenix area. So number one, we have luxury. Number two, we have retirement, that also is a completely different animal of its own. And number three, we have what we call the Gen Pop. When we take a look at the Gen Pop today, we are what they call a balanced market. This amazing little graphic provided by Cromford Report, it will show you any market index number between 90 and 110 is what they call balanced. When we look at where the current supply is, and it obviously matches where the demand is, we are at what they call a balanced market. Now, does that mean that all areas are balanced? No, it means that some of them have a higher seller demand, which means buyers don't have as much of an edge, versus some of the areas that are huge buyers markets, where mostly that's the new construction. We have some very strong buyer markets. Let's break that down for you. When we look at the totality of this amazing balancing art, you can see that there's a lot of buyers markets, but because some of the seller markets are so heavy, again, it's coming out to be a balanced market. So if somebody gives us a call and they see something that they saw online and it says that prices are going down, 5% or whatever, that doesn't mean that the entire greater Phoenix area is going down 5%. We have seen that market correction in late 2022. And since then, we have seen a small itty bitty increase year over year. That, in my opinion, is a very healthy and very strong market with the higher interest rates. As we mentioned earlier in this video, what's going to happen when interest rates go down and more buyers come out? It's then going to change that pendulum again a little bit, and it's going to move it more towards the seller side. And here's the thing, guys, with new construction right now, they are offering some crazy incentives, and they're not increasing their prices. But when interest rates go down and more buyers come out, we're going to see fewer incentives. So again, people don't realize there's no way anyone can predict the market. Anybody that nails it right on time is what they call lucky. All right, let's get to the nitty-gritty and the details of what's going on exactly in each city. Okay, green on this sheet tells you exactly what's going on. The higher the number, the more of a seller's market it is. Now, this does not mean it's a dump your junk market in any way at all whatsoever. Homes that are selling, even in these hot areas, are going to be updated, great curb appeal, are super clean and ready for showings. The days of sellers not putting in effort are a thing of the past, at least in this current market, where it's not super crazy heavy sellers market. These cities do still have a little advantage, if you'll notice, because there's no new construction in these cities that are in higher demand that have a seller's market. And that is why it's a seller's market. Now, if we go to the blue areas, this is where it's the coldest, meaning it's the best market for buyers. And there is a ton of new construction. And I'll tell you, those builders are going to fight for your business. Remember, don't ever go into a builder's sales office without representation. We just had a builder today say that they were going to be bumping up prices in about 2 weeks by $50,000. Such a lie. I call bullshit. Yeah, I'm just saying they are there to do one thing, guys, and that is to sell you. We are there to represent you and make sure you find the perfect home for you. If you are thinking of buying resale or new construction, if you want to have charts pulled out just for the area that you're looking at, give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email, days, nights, or weekends. Even if you're not buying for another year or so, give us a call. Let's start having some conversations today so we can prepare you for the perfect time for you to buy. And just remember, you're going to pay the highest cost per square foot in the springtime. Something to remember and take away from this video. We hope to see you again soon. Hope to hear from you even sooner. Bye.